This is the third and final part of a video examining how Mark Bunker lost his Xenutv 1 account and how he might possibly get it back. I'm going to address the rest of this video directly to you, Mark. I'll just assume that you're watching, so this is being addressed directly to you. Given that your use may have been fair, what should you do to try to get your account back? Well, it would be wasting your time appealing to the gods of YouTube. Even if you had an absolutely solid case that your use was fair use, you would still be wasting your time by appealing to YouTube. YouTube doesn't care. Google's informal corporate motto is "Don't be evil." YouTube's official motto is "Broadcast yourself." But the way they conduct their business, it would be more appropriate of them if they would just adopt the motto "Fuck fair use." Mark, I think you should go directly to Viacom and ask them to review the fair use analysis that I just presented. You should say that you thought your use was fair at the time, but admit that the situation is not clear-cut. You should then point out that Viacom's understanding with the Electronic Frontier Foundation strongly suggested that Viacom intended to give fair use a wide berth. The folks at Viacom strongly suggested that they would not be hard-asses in going after people who use clips in a manner that could reasonably be judged fair use. If Viacom does not withdraw its DMCA in light of the analysis that I have presented, then it looks like Viacom is reneging on their understanding with the Electronic Frontier Foundation. You should also ask them to withdraw their DMCA as a gesture of goodwill to someone who, at worst, made a mistake. At worst, you are guilty of misunderstanding the rules of the game because copyright law is so murky. You did not intend to hurt Viacom, and you only learned that you were in violation after your account was suspended. And I use the word violation in quotes. You did not receive a reasonable warning before your account was suspended, and if Viacom does not withdraw its DMCA, then you will be punished by being blocked forever from the world's most important forum for the free exchange of ideas. This is an extreme punishment for such an innocent mistake. Then you should remind them of their mistakes. Remind them of how they sent out nearly 60 DMCAs in their 2007 Dragnet that falsely accused YouTubers of copyright infringement when they had not used any Viacom property. Remind them that they had signed those complaints under penalty of perjury. People make mistakes, and if Viacom expects others to forgive them of their mistakes, then they should be forgiving of other people's mistakes. Imagine what would have happened if the judicial system was as unforgiving of Viacom's mistakenly signing false DMCAs as Viacom is of your possibly mistaken belief that you had acted within fair use. A whole bunch of Viacom executives would have had their asses hauled off to jail. You should also carefully consider filing a DMCA counter notice if they do not withdraw their DMCA voluntarily. Now, I read at inturbulations.com that you were reluctant to do this because you would have to sign a legal document saying that you think the videos were removed by mistake, and you could not in good conscience state that Viacom's DMCA against you was a mistake. Well, Viacom's DMCA was a mistake if you did not violate copyright law. It was a mistake if your video made fair use of their material. And I want to draw your attention to another incident similar to this to illustrate that you would be correct in calling their DMCA a mistake if your postings fell within fair use. Wendy Seltzer is an expert on First Amendment law and Internet law. She was a former lawyer for the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and she founded the Chilling Effects Clearinghouse. She wanted to show her class how some copyright owners exaggerated their claims, so she posted a 33-second clip on YouTube of the copyright infringement announcement that introduced the 2007 Super Bowl. She then made a blog post about the clip and embedded the video in her blog. Her use was obviously a fair use, but that didn't stop the NFL from sending YouTube a DMCA complaint to have their video removed. Seltzer had a stronger case that her use was fair use than you do, Mark, but as I said, I think that you have a reasonable fair use claim. Since Seltzer believed her posting fell within fair use, she sent YouTube a DMCA counter notice. In her February 15, 2007 blog entry, she called the DMCA notice mistaken since it did not take fair use into account. And in the DMCA counter notice itself, you said, and I'm quoting, "I have a good faith belief that this material was removed or disabled as a result of a mistake or misidentification of the material." I'll post a link to the blog entry so you can see for yourself, as well as a link to my website where I have a more detailed analysis of this incident. Well, Mark, I think it would be reasonable for you to have a good faith belief that your use was fair use and that Viacom made a mistake and misidentified your use of their videos as infringing. So I think you can file a counter notice without getting into any trouble for perjury. But it would be a good idea to check with a real lawyer on this before doing so. Of course, if you file a counter notice and if Viacom still objects, then their next step would be to sue you. So you'll have to decide whether it is worth your time and whether it is worth taking that risk. But if Viacom is smart, they will decide not to sue you. I think it would be a good idea for you to show them my analysis and then ask them flat out. And this is what you should ask them. If I file a counter notice, will you sue me? I think it would be in your best interest to just let this die, and here's why. If you sue me, it is not at all clear that you will win. It is certain that this will be very bad publicity for your company and will piss a lot of people off. I understand you might want to sue me because you might feel that it would be setting a bad precedent if you don't. You might believe that if you let it go, then this might embolden others into believing that Viacom is turning soft and that they can post Viacom's material with impunity. So I have a deal for you that will take care of this concern. Give me your word that you won't file a lawsuit against me, and I will file a counter notice to get my account back. The first thing I will do when I get my account back is voluntarily take down the Colbert videos. The second thing I will do is make a video explaining that Viacom chose not to sue me because of the special circumstances of my situation. I will explain that you didn't sue me only because I had posted the videos in order to comment on them in my blog, and because they fit in so well with the theme of my channel. I will explain that you chose not to sue me because you realized that it is a close call as to whether or not I had made fair use of your videos. At worst, I made an innocent mistake in thinking that I was acting properly in posting your videos under the circumstances. I will explain that you believe that being forced out of the world's most important marketplace of ideas forever is an excessive punishment for my mistake. So you decided to let matters drop after I filed a counter notice. And most importantly, I will emphasize that my situation was unusual and that people should be very careful to make sure that any usage of Viacom clips is fair use. I will explain that Viacom is not setting a general precedent, and because my circumstance is so unusual, people should not expect Viacom will be as forgiving with them as they have been with me if their usage is not clearly fair use. So that's what I think you should tell them, Mark. And I think there's a good chance that you'll get your account back if you do. But if that doesn't work, then you may still have the option of playing hardball. But you must, and I stress must, check this out with an experienced lawyer before you play hardball. You would be better off hiring Freddy Krueger as your masseuse than taking my advice without carefully considering the ramifications of my suggestions with an experienced counsel. What I'm about to suggest could either be a brilliant idea or a terrible idea, so take this as no more than an option to be explored. If you file a DMCA counter notice, and if Viacom sues you, then you might consider countersuing Viacom on the grounds that they are improperly using copyright law to prevent you from having access to the world's largest town hall. If your use of Viacom's clips was fair use, then Viacom has no more right to use copyright law to block you from speaking out in the world's largest town hall than it does to block you from speaking out in City Hall. So if they sue you, then countersue them for abuse of copyright law. And furthermore, allege in your lawsuit that someone at Viacom is in bed with the Church of Scientology. Now, this may seem like a wild claim at first, but I base it on two pieces of evidence. First, the fact that your first account was suspended because you received DMCAs from both Viacom and the Church of Scientology within an hour of each other seems suspicious and raises the question of whether the Church of Scientology has any agents working for Viacom. Was it just a coincidence that the two subpoenas were timed so closely together that you did not have the time to bring your account into compliance with YouTube's rules. And second, if Viacom sues you after you file a DMCA counter notice to get your account back, that in itself is evidence that their intent is to prevent you from having access to YouTube's platform. I say this because A, your use of the Colbert's clip was arguably fair use. B, Viacom would be reneging on the spirit of the understanding that they had reached with the Electronic Frontier Foundation. And C, your pledge to remove the Colbert clips voluntarily should clear up any concern that Viacom has about their copyrighted material. Add to that your pledge to make a video explaining your situation and warning your viewers not to use Viacom's material unless their usage clearly fell within fair use. And you add that to it, and Viacom has no reasonable basis to sue you. If they sue you despite all of this, then this strongly suggests that something more than just Viacom's concern about its copyright is at work here. This suggests that Viacom's real purpose is to shut you up. And if you do file a lawsuit, a countersuit, then there are two people that you will want to question during the discovery process. You will want to depose the person within Viacom who sent the DMCA notice that arrived within an hour of the Scientology notice. You will want to ask him or her what ties, if any, they have with the Church of Scientology. And you will want to subpoena YouTube to find out who ratted on you and got your second account suspended. You will then want to question that person under oath to see if he or she has any ties to Scientology or Viacom. So that is my plan about how you can get your account back. I doubt Viacom would sue you if you filed a counter DMCA, and I think they will back down if you file a countersuit. It would be absolutely terrible publicity for Viacom if they got in a legal battle with you. They don't want to be seen as someone who censors an Emmy Award-winning journalist. They don't want to be seen as an organization that does the dirty work of Scientology. And they don't want to be the target of a boycott that I predict would happen should they take on the role of Scientology's hatchet man. So those are my ideas on how you can get your account back, Mark. Definitely check them out with a lawyer before you do anything, and I wish you the best of luck, and I really hope you get your account back. This has been the Masked Analyst, under and in.